Hi, I'm Annie Wekesser, CMO of SambaNova, and we're here live from the Raise Summit talking open source. And I'm here with Milosz, and I'll let Milosz introduce himself. Welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. My name is Milosz, CEO and co-founder of Deepset, authors behind Haystack.
Okay, great. And tell us a little bit about Deepset and what they do.
Deepset was founded 7 years ago, so long before AI has reached not just the hype level, but also the maturity it has reached in the meantime. And we started out with a vision to bring the capabilities of machine learning for human language understanding to all kinds of industries and use cases. And we did that in a very customized way. So we started out by building very customer-specific solutions for clients in the aerospace industry, manufacturing industry, in government. And what happened in parallel to that journey was that Google released BERT, which was the first transformer, and we all know that transformers are changing our lives, or still changing our lives day to day. And when that happened, this was kind of a big shift for us, and we went away from building always individually for each client, and we started to productize, and then we came up with Haystack as the heart of our product, an engine that allows people and companies to build the complete AI architectures and backends they need in a way that they don't have to make hard choices about models or databases or technologies. And this is how we then transformed from kind of a services company into a product company. And since then, we grew and raised venture capital and did all of these things that you need to do to grow and to compete in the AI.
Yeah, that's great. Really interesting story. Tell us about your vision in terms of how you see open source evolving over the next year.
I think so. When we started Haystack as a product, we very intentionally said it needs to be open source, just because when we went to enterprises, when we tried to sell AI to them, it was back then quite clear that something like AI is something so fundamental, something with an own logic, needs to be very transparent and very approachable for people. You want to be able to see, is there a community around it? Are there articles around it? Is there any kind of research I can read about it, right? So open source was kind of a default. It was clear AI needs to be open source. I was a bit surprised to see how it evolved over the past years, because obviously we see many proprietary model providers. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that obviously these models are so big and you cannot self-host them, and obviously then there is a moat in it, and probably there isn't even the ability to host some of those massive models yourself. But I think open source is ultimately going to be the default option again for AI in the enterprise once we reach an equilibrium in the market. And I think that equilibrium will come with better performing chips, with smaller models, and all of these trends will ultimately just support and push open source back to kind of the default and kind of the key requirement for AI.
I agree with you. How do you see AI infrastructure requirements changing? Obviously, you guys are supporting in various industries, but how do you see the AI infrastructure requirements?
I mean, obviously, in the beginning, when everyone is kind of experimenting, people probably don't care too much about how efficient is an infrastructure. And when I say efficiency, I mean like, what's kind of my TCO model around it? How energy efficient is it? How performant is it as well, right? I think latency, for example, is a requirement that you don't have when you experiment. You have it once you're in production, once a use case generates value, and once a whole bunch of users is complaining about those 500 milliseconds of latency, right? And this is, I think, what we're seeing right now. So the requirements are, becoming higher and higher. People want low latency applications. The load increases as the use case adoption increases. And at the same time, IT departments really are facing a significant cost base, right? And it's not easy to just, invest and pay any arbitrary price and do this in a very inefficient way. So I think we will see that AI infrastructure will actually be evaluated not just on, let's say, capabilities and can I train or inference a model on it. There will be all of these meta factors that ultimately are essential to make the economics of AI work.
And what are your thoughts? You talked about energy efficiency, but what are your thoughts on the need for speed, more efficiency with AI?
Yeah. I mean, so when you look at every consumer application, right? What frustrates users the most is, maybe not the most, but what's one key element or point of frustration is if an app is super slow, right?
Waiting.
And you're waiting, and nothing's happening. You see a long loading screen. It's a very frustrating experience. And I think we start to see that many apps in AI are moving out of the experimental phase and are kind of, adapted almost in habits, right? So many people are by default using something like ChatGPT, for example, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So there are many, many AI apps that are used on a day-to-day basis. And with more usage, obviously, generally, the latency would go up if you're not scaling up infrastructure. If you scale up infrastructure, your costs scale up. So it's becoming more and more important and a key consideration. How can I speed up applications and reduce latency? Again, at reasonable cost, because the investment amount becomes real once you really roll this out at a large scale.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Complete this sentence for me. In 5 years, open source will blank.
Will be the key requirement for any AI system that's serving a critical application.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
I really
you.
enjoyed the conversation.
Likewise. Thanks.
Yeah.